Hello. Well, maybe just like me, you've just been watching Doctor Who, and I thought it brought up some very interesting topics. And I loved the Sherlock Holmes joke at the beginning with the policeman who was about to propose, and I loved the monster and the goblins. And then I thought sort of halfway through that it wasn't really going anywhere, that it was a one-trick pony, and then there was a sudden twist. I don't want to give anything away, but a very satisfying episode, really, a very satisfying episode, and beautiful production values, which I don't think I remember to this standard in Doctor Who before. It was a joy to watch. As for the issue, which I thought really merits a little video, it's about adoption and fostering, and the whole idea of the assumption that one wants to know where one came from. And as somebody I was told when I was quite old that I was adopted. It was quite a shock, and maybe it had been mentioned beforehand, but I certainly didn't know, and it didn't register. And so when I learnt, I thought, "Ooh, I need to find out who my real mother is." And I went on a quest, and I found a birth certificate, and my birth mother had a very peculiar name, so it was possible eventually to track her down, and she turned out to be somebody very odd, and I was one of quite a number of children, all of whom, in one way or another, she abandoned. I think I was the only one who was formally adopted, and I was so extremely premature that none of the other children knew that I existed, and so I was a surprise on many levels. And as I say, I eventually tracked down my mother. It wasn't an impossible thing to track her down. We found her name in an obscure local newspaper, and she'd been complaining about about a bag of flour that she'd bought over Christmas, and it had got weevils in it. And she said that I can't enjoy my Christmas. Every time I open a cupboard, the flowers there, it's decimated my Christmas, she said. And my mother was given to my birth mother was given to hyperbole in a most extraordinary way. And I thought, yeah, that sounds a little bit like me. And so I saw elements of me in her, but not the elements I like. And it sort of got worse and worse. And eventually she rang me up out of the blue. We'd just been to see the opening night of Mary Poppins in London, the St Edward's, King Edward's, Prince Edward's Theatre. And it was a sensational performance. I don't know if you've been to see Disney's Mary Poppins, but it's a tremendous show. If you get an opportunity, go and see it. And we got back very late, about 3 o'clock in the morning, and the phone rang, and it was this woman, and she said, "Do you know who this is?" And I said, "No." And she said, "I'm your mother." And I said, "Well, are you sure?" And she said, "Yes, and I think about you every 22nd of May. And I said, "Well, why?" She said, "Well, that's your birthday." And I said, "No, my birthday's on the 12th of May. And she said, "I was there." And I thought that was quite a good answer. So we arranged to meet, and she was late. And shortly after that, she invited herself to our home. She was coming for, I think, an afternoon. She stayed for 3 weeks and just wouldn't leave. And it was the first of many visits which were bizarre. And I wanted to know more about my older brother and sister, and it was impossible to get the information out of her. I did eventually meet one of my sisters, who was lovely, and when I was ill, she came to stay, and She's a nurse, so she knew exactly what was going on, and she knew all the right answers, all the right questions to ask. She was very, very helpful, and I'm deeply grateful to have her in my life. But I don't know any of the other brothers and sisters, and I think there's 9 of us or something. And my mother, in the end, my birth mother, in the end, became deeply abusive and deeply unpleasant. And one of the reasons some of the other siblings wouldn't talk to me was because I was prepared to give her the time of day, and they thought this was simply unacceptable. And so, all in all, do I recommend trying to find the answer to all those questions? You know, you're itching with curiosity, but is the answer worse than the question? And sometimes I think it is. I regret going on that pilgrimage to find my birth mother, partly because people who haven't experienced this quest always go on about, well, your real mother. My real mother was the person who brought me up. My real mother was the person who adopted me, not this strange biological coincidence. And I think that's something. I think that's an understanding that Russell T Davies has also reached. And I was really proud of this episode for the fact that it left questions, and it raised questions. It raised questions, it left questions, and it didn't go down an easy answer. And it's a subject that I've occasionally tried to talk about on YouTube, and I've always talked about only a bit of it, and I think I've left more confusion than I've offered help or advice or support. I mean, I'm hugely supportive of people who are looking for their birth parents, but I don't think that should obliterate what you've already got. And you've made a life with other people. Now, that life may not be ideal, and in some cases awful. In some cases it's very good. And this accident of birth, we can't choose our parents, but we have been chosen. And we're in a very, very rare group of children whose parents have chosen them. And I think we should be very grateful. And you know, when it goes well, I suppose we've got a multiplicity of parents, and that's wonderful. It's also the same sort of thing, that the difference between our friends and our family. And we put them, there's that wonderful expression, kith and kin. Our kith and kin. Our kin are our family. Our kith are our friends, who can be just as close, but we have had a little bit more of an element of choice about it. Not much, really, because there's a lot of coincidence running around the place, and we are thrown together in this chaos, in this concatenation of confusion. But it is wonderful, isn't it, really? It is wonderful. So congratulations, Russell T Davies. Congratulations, Ncuti Gatwa. Lovely. Beautifully lit, by the way. Millie Gibson, charming. Even Davina McCall was wonderful. And Barney Wilkinson stood out, absolutely. Just delightful. And may there be more of the same. This is what the BBC does well. When it does well, it justifies its license fee. Well done.